confirmations, confirmations, and confirmations. Why are we going to look for confirmations onto our S&D zones? Why are we going the extra mile to actually look for confirmations, putting in the hard work, and at times we even miss trades onto the POI that we are waiting for? So I'm pretty sure that most of you understand that when we have a supply zone like this, and then, you know, at times when you are looking for confirmations, you realize that prices actually taps in, breaks out, and then it starts to shift lower into liquidity lows. And this is where you think that, wow, confirmations made me miss the trade, right? If I were to place a sell limit over here, stop loss above this level, and then this will make a runner into liquidity lows, right? And in this case, of course, for traders who are using confirmations, the break of structure happens, you are waiting for supply zones to get involved, and in this case, miss the trade. So of course, at this instant, you may think that the sell limit orders would work better. And the problem with that is that if you're using limit orders onto confirmations, right, limit orders onto supply and demand zones, then you're going to get involved in everywhere in the market, because everywhere in the market, at every swing point like this or like this, has supply and demand zones. And if you were to place limit orders all around, then you're going to get trapped and lose money eventually, right? So the idea here behind the confirmations is that when you have a break of structure, leaving behind supply zones like this, you understand that you have multiple supply zones, okay? And the supply zones aren't the main concern over here, because you understand that we are working on a three-step process. This break of structure is the one that is going to help you decide whether you should look for supply or demand areas, correct? So of course, with this, we have a sell-side bias, we have two supply areas, and using confirmations, you understand that you can work with every single supply zone that broke structure. So anything above this level, right, over here, are available for sells. So of course, we will now go down to the lower time frame to look for refined areas, to look for confirmations by means of structural shifts, by means of S&D flips, okay? Again, Wyckoff, break of structure, or supply and demand flip like this. Demand fail to make a higher high, okay? Demand fails to make a higher high, break structure, taps back into supply, and this is where you get, you know, for sells. And if you are confused about all of this, right, in terms of supply and demand flips, Wyckoff, then you want to go to the high time frame to look for a structural shift, just a break of structure like this, and you are already valid for sells, okay? So all of this works, right? You have three ways to confirm your areas. Otherwise, you can make use of indicators like RSI stochastics to actually help you to get better entries. Okay, so I know that some of my traders actually use you know, RSI stochastics, and when both cross over, right, in terms of you know, your indicators over here, right, when both are at the overbought, then you can look for sells, correct? So that is one of the ways you can get involved as well. I do not use indicators like RSI or MACD or whatsoever. You can use it and improvise your entries. And that is why confirmation is so important. You are going to get involved only if you see the structural shifts and the confirmation, right? So what happens when you miss the trade? Okay, so let's say, for example, prices makes its way higher into this zone, and then it taps in, it shifts, and at this point of time, you are waiting for a pullback into this area to catch sells. Okay, and what happens if it doesn't deliver that way? Prices pulls back, taps the open, okay, taps the open of the entire order block like this. So you as a trader, you are waiting for the refined area inside of this, right? And didn't happen. Prices taps into the open, breaks down. When this delivers on a higher time frame, let's say the 15 minutes, I would say at least on the 15 minutes, okay, you are eligible for sells at this area. Okay, and the problem with this is that you are going to look for confirmations on the lower time frame. So remember what we said about using the three-step process. You're looking for H4, break of structure, then you're going down to the 15M or towards the H1, right? To look for S&D zones. And of course, you're going to work with the 1M into the 5M confirmations. So what happens when you are looking for a 15M BOS over here? So now your high time frame becomes 15M. So all of these will scale down accordingly, right? 15M high time frame. You're looking for 1M S&D, right? And then you're looking for potentially a seconds time frame confirmation. And most of the traders do not have seconds time frame. And that is why you find it very difficult to trade the continuation moves, because when this is a 15 MBOS over here, you have a 1 minute supply, and when prices makes its way back into this level, your 1M movement is so huge that it probably shifted and taps into your liquidity lows on the 15M immediately. But what you fail to realize is that inside of this movement consists of a 5 seconds break of structure and Wyckoff. Okay, and this is how you are able to catch sells downside. So the truth is that what happens if you are trading this range and you do not have the seconds time frame to work with, then just work with the 1M time frame. Okay, at times you do get like a nice shift in structure, okay, in terms of Wyckoff, S&D flips or whatsoever on the 1 minute time frame, and that is one of the ways you can get involved. And what happens if you don't? Then don't get involved. Okay,